Picture this, because it's literally the ultimate filmmaker's nightmare. You've spent weeks searching, and you finally find it. The absolute perfect, gorgeous location for your film's most emotional scene. I mean, it looks incredible. But then, on the actual shoot day, you arrive to find there's constant traffic noise, totally drowning out your actors. There is zero electricity to plug in your lights, and to top the whole shebang off, the property owner suddenly shows up and kicks you out because, well, you never actually asked for official permission. Total disaster, right? Well, welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're going to break down exactly how professional filmmakers avoid this exact nightmare by mastering the art and the science of location scouting and permits. We've got a great roadmap for This Explainer. First, we'll tackle the perfect location myth. Then we'll hit the 5 pillars of scouting, break down the rules of permission, dive into the technical recce, and finally look at making the final call. We're going to use this roadmap to bridge the gap between amateur mistakes and the true professional location scouting framework. Okay, let's dive into this with Section 1, the perfect location myth. Beauty versus practicality. You know, it's incredibly common for beginners to just hunt for really pretty places. But professional preparation requires a totally different mindset. It's driven by this very simple formula. Story plus practicality equals a great location. So what does that actually mean? Well, a truly great location absolutely must seamlessly fit the script's mood. It needs to strengthen the story you're trying to tell without distracting from it. But actually, scratch that. That's only half the battle. It also has to be entirely practical for the physical, highly demanding realities of filming. If it's visually stunning but impossible to actually work in, it's just a bad location. Let's take a look at a successful production timeline to see exactly where everything lives. We start with the script, of course, then, still entirely in pre-production, we do our location scout. That's immediately followed by our technical checks and securing our permits. Setting this rock-solid foundation long before Step 5, the actual film shoot, is exactly what separates a chaotic amateur set from a smooth professional production.
Moving right along to Section 2, the 5 pillars of scouting, the invisible elements of a location. To really understand this, we need to initiate a kind of sensory shift and ask ourselves, what makes a location truly work? It's super easy to spot a place that just looks good on camera, sure, but we really have to train ourselves to look way beyond just the visual aesthetics and pay close attention to its invisible elements. So let's break down the 5 essential checks that every single professional filmmaker makes to evaluate a space. We build our entire evaluation on these 5 pillars. It all starts with the story fit. Step 2 is lighting conditions. Step 3 is the sound environment. Step 4 is space for the crew, and Step 5 is accessibility and logistics. Over the next few moments, we're going to examine how each of these invisible elements directly impacts a film shoot. Okay, so for our first 2 checks, story fit and lighting, we really need to ask, does this location actually support the script's mood? Will the audience truly believe this place is what we say it is? Once you confirm that story fit, you absolutely must analyze the lighting. And here's a vital pro tip for you. You have to visit the location at the exact time of day you actually plan to shoot. You need to physically track the sun paths, see where the shadows are falling, and note any giant bright windows. Because good lighting, it begins way before the camera ever arrives on set. Next up, checks 3 and 4, the sound environment and space for the crew. Look, gorgeous images can be completely ruined by terrible sound. You have to listen carefully for invisible threats, things like ambient traffic, wind, or those humming air conditioning units. A great habit is to always spend a few minutes just standing in total silence at the location, just listening. Then, look at the physical space. A room might look incredibly spacious in your reference photos, but be warned, that room is going to shrink rapidly once you pack it with cameras, lights, heavy microphones, tripods, actors, and all the crew movement required just to get the shot. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is our logistics checklist. Parking, transportation, electricity, internet, restrooms, food and water access, safety, and weather protection. Treating this specific checklist as your ultimate cheat sheet is going to save you massive amounts of time and stress on set. Think about it, a convenient location where your crew can easily park, plug in their gear, and just use a restroom. That keeps morale incredibly high and the whole production moving smoothly. Let's shift gears to Section 3, the rules of permission, filming legally and respectfully. Because honestly, a beautiful, logistically perfect location is utterly useless if you literally don't have the legal right to be there.
First up is the location release. This is a document signed by the private property owner that grants you legal permission to use their space. Remember, not every location is just free to use. Obtaining this specific written permission is absolutely crucial because it protects you, the filmmaker, and the entire production from sudden interruptions. It basically ensures the owner can't just change their mind halfway through a shoot and kick you out. We also really have to consider the filming permit, which is totally distinct from a release. While the release usually deals with a private owner, a filming permit is official approval from local authorities. You need this for shooting in specific public spaces or doing things like operating drones. Permits handle the municipal and public side of shooting legally and respectfully. Bottom line, always ask and get official approval before you start filming anywhere.
All right, Section 4, the technical recce, the final walkthrough.
If you aren't familiar with the industry jargon, recce is just short for reconnaissance. Professional filmmakers literally never visit a complex location just once. During this final walkthrough, all your key departments, like directing, cinematography, lighting, and sound, converge on the location together. They walk through it to confirm exact camera positions, finalize those lighting plans, verify the power sources, check equipment access, and identify any safety concerns. You do this to ensure absolute readiness before the clock actually starts ticking on shoot day.
And this brilliantly illustrates our final section, Section 5, making the final call, putting theory to the test.
Okay, it's time to put all this theory to the test. Imagine we are choosing an orchard location for a really poignant, emotional scene featuring a grandfather character. We're doing a bit of an A/B test here. Location A has absolutely beautiful scenery, but it comes with constant highway noise in the background, limited parking, and zero electricity. Now look at location B. It has slightly less dramatic scenery, sure, but it offers a wonderfully quiet environment, super easy equipment access, and great natural shade. Without a doubt, location B is the professional choice. It perfectly balances your creative vision with the actual practical reality of capturing clean dialogue and keeping your crew functioning.
So, to summarize this whole problem-solution framework, the beginner-amateur approach is usually disastrous. Picking purely for looks with absolutely no sound check and no permit, that inevitably leads to major production delays and legal issues. The prepared professional, however, scouts for sound and access and secures all those necessary permits well in advance. And the outcome? Smooth, efficient filming every single time.
There is a really famous industry saying, a successful shooting day begins during the location scout. And this is just the ultimate professional insight. By solving all those logistical, legal, and environmental problems during pre-production, your entire crew is liberated. They can focus entirely on creativity and performance on the actual shoot day, rather than running around doing crisis management. And that pretty much wraps up our deep dive into securing the perfect filming environment. Up next in our Explainer series, we're going to be looking at production design, props, and costumes. We'll discover exactly how those specific visual details fill the empty locations we just secured in order to truly shape and build the world of the film. So, as we wrap up today, I want to leave you with this one thought. The next time you see a stunning location, will you only look at its beauty? Or will you stop and listen for the highway? Understanding the invisible elements of a space truly changes everything. Thanks so much for joining me on this Explainer, and keep looking and listening to the world around you with that professional perspective.